You've seen the marble forums, the grand temples, the toga-clad senators debating the fate of the world. You've heard the stories of emperors, generals, and gladiators. This is the image of ancient Rome we are taught in school, a civilization of law, order, and epic glory. But what if that whole story is a lie? What if everything you thought you knew was built on a hidden truth, a silent, brutal foundation that textbooks and Hollywood films refuse to show? What if the real engine of the Roman Empire was not the military or the Senate, but the constant, backbreaking labor of a population with no rights, no voice, and no name? The untold truth of Roman slavery is not a single, uniform story of suffering. It is a vast, complex, and deeply unsettling tale of a human hierarchy that ranged from unimaginable brutality to subtle, psychological oppression. It is a story of a system so ingrained in daily life that no one questioned it. This is not the history of a tragic few, but the untold reality of millions. From the refined scribe who managed an entire household to the anonymous body chained to a rock in a mine. The life of a Roman slave was a spectrum of human experience that will challenge everything you thought you knew. Subscribe to the channel now, because what they don't tell you in school is a truth you need to hear. The common myth is that a slave was simply a slaver person stripped of all humanity, condemned to a life of uniform cruelty. But the truth is far more complex, and in many ways, more chilling. The reality of Roman slavery was a spectrum, a sprawling social hierarchy within a hierarchy. On one end were the men and women condemned to a short, brutal life in the mines, quarries, or on the galleys, where conditions were unimaginably harsh and death was a constant companion. On the other were highly educated, skilled slaves who served as tutors for wealthy families, managed vast business enterprises, or even acted as personal secretaries to the emperor himself. These individuals might have enjoyed more comforts and influence than a poor, free Roman citizen, yet they were still legally considered thing, a piece of property. Their life, their body, their very existence belonged to their master. This is the untold truth that challenges our modern understanding. Roman slavery was not a monolith, but a sophisticated system designed to extract every ounce of value from a human being, regardless of their skills or status. It was a truth built on a profound lie that underpinned the entire Roman world. To grasp this reality, we must first understand the scale. Slavery was not a small part of the Roman economy. It was its very engine. At its peak, slaves may have accounted for up to 30% of the population in some parts of the Italian peninsula. They were everywhere. In the fields, in the mines, in the houses, and in the factories. The primary source of slaves was conquest. As the Roman army conquered new territories, it brought back hundreds of thousands of captives who were then sold at auction in sprawling slave markets. The Gallic Wars under Julius Caesar alone are said to have brought over 1 million slaves back to Rome. Other sources included debt, children born to enslaved parents known as verni, or even abandonment. A slave had no legal standing. They could not own property, marry legally, or file a lawsuit. A Roman master had absolute power over their life and death. And while laws were eventually passed to curb the most egregious abuses, a slave's existence was, by its very definition, one of constant vulnerability and total powerlessness. A day in the life of a Roman slave was, therefore, an entirely different experience depending on their fate. Let's imagine two very different lives. In a lavish villa on the outskirts of Rome, a domestic slave named Cassius wakes before dawn. His day is a relentless series of tasks, meticulously maintaining his master's ledgers and scrolls, preparing the family's wardrobe, and managing the household's social calendar tasks that require a high degree of literacy and skill. His life is one of relative comfort. He eats the same food as his master, and he is protected from the elements, but he has no privacy, is constantly on call, and his fate rests entirely on his master's goodwill. A master's sudden bad mood could mean a public beating. His existence is defined by his master's schedule, his desires, and his whims. Far to the south, in a vast agricultural estate, a farm slave named Gnaeus wakes to the sound of a whip. His day is one of sheer physical agony. toiling in the fields from sunrise to sunset, plowing land with heavy oxen, harvesting crops with a short sickle, and tending to vast herds of livestock. His meager food is a daily ration of grain, his lodging is a communal shack with dozens of others, and his body is a tool to be used until it breaks. The average life expectancy for a slave in a Roman mine was often just a few years. Yet, both Cassius and Gnaeus were slaves. Both were a master's property. Both had no legal claim to their own bodies, but their daily realities were as different as night and day. Tell us in the comments. Based on what you've heard, what do you think was the most terrifying aspect of a Roman slave's life? Was it the physical brutality or the complete psychological powerlessness? We'll have more on that next, as we dive into the evidence. Our knowledge of this brutal system is not based on speculation. It is pieced together from a mosaic of evidence that speaks to their hidden lives. Archaeologists have uncovered iron slave collars in places like Pompeii, inscribed with the slave's name and the phrase, "Run away." Return to these collars are a chilling physical testament to the utter lack of freedom. We have the words of Roman writers themselves. The agricultural writer Cato the Elder, for example, wrote of the management of slaves with the cold, detached eye of a businessman managing livestock, outlining how to maximize their work and when to dispose of them when they became old or sick. We have unearthed the communal living quarters of slaves in Roman villas, revealing the cramped, dark, and windowless rooms where they were housed. And we have the thousands of inscriptions that document manumissio, the process by which a master could free a slave. This was the ultimate hope, often granted in a master's will. But even then, freedom often came with a price. The ex-slave, now a freedman, was still bound to their former master by ties of loyalty and obligation. The peculium, a small sum of money a slave might be allowed to earn, was their only hope of buying their own freedom. But it was a privilege, not a right, and a testament to their master's generosity. Culturally, the Romans saw slavery not as an ethical problem, but as a fundamental, natural order of the world. Philosophers, even Stoics who valued personal freedom, often wrote of it as a necessary evil or even a form of divine will. The sheer number of slaves in Roman society made it impossible to question the system without tearing the entire social and economic fabric of the empire apart. Slaves performed every single task imaginable, from the most menial to the most sophisticated. They were the doctors, the teachers, the administrators, the builders, and the soldiers. The Roman obsession with leisure, art, and philosophy was only possible because a massive invisible workforce took care of all the practical matters of life. The fear of slave revolts, like the one led by Spartacus, was a constant undercurrent in Roman society, a haunting reminder that this silent foundation could one day rise up and consume the empire it built. The story of Roman slavery is not just a tale from the past. It is a profound and deeply unsettling lesson about the foundations of society. The magnificent monuments of Rome, its intricate laws, and its vast wealth were all built on the labor of people who were seen as tools, not as human beings. The system's complexity, its spectrum of treatment, and its legal justifications show how easily a society can normalize profound injustice. It forces us to ask, what is the unseen cost of our own modern comforts? What invisible labor sustains our own magnificent achievements? The glory of Rome was a lie, a beautiful facade built on the hidden price of millions of human lives. What do you think? Was the scale of Roman slavery a necessary evil for the advancement of civilization, or its greatest moral failing? Let us know in the comments. If you're fascinated by the dark and hidden lives of the people who shaped the ancient world, subscribe and hit the notification bell. And click here to watch our next video. The Colosseum's Hidden Secrets. The engineering that built an empire.